Bro, if you were to bring Dave Meltzer into a wrestling committee, I'm sure he could give good ideas too. You know what I'm saying?
Skip
I'm not saying you.
Sheffield. Conan, Skip Sheffield is here.
Yes.
Yes.
Go,
How you?
guys.
How you doing, man?
Good to see you guys.
You know what's
Good to see
funny?
you.
Like, did you ever have any interactions with Buff Bagwell? Have
I've
you?
only just one. Actually, I met him at a show in Ringgold, Georgia. I had my first stem cell procedure. I was supposed to wrestle on. It was for that fake Nature Boy, Ric Flair guy, the
Right.
fake
Paul
Nature down
Lee.
in Georgia.
Paul Lee, yeah.
Yeah, what a character. And Buff had a shoulder replacement, and he filled in for me. He couldn't do much, but he went out and wrestled. I go, Jesus. I just went and got stem cells, but I was done wrestling. And he gets his shoulder replaced, and that was the first time I actually met him.
Yeah,
He was cool.
Buff was always great, incredibly comedic timing. Okay, he's like one of the funniest storytellers, quick wit, like you'll ever meet. And everything. And if you typical A1 personality, narcissistic, but like if you're in on it, like he makes a joke out, like it's funny, you know. But the funniest thing was like we like have a joke backstage. Like I'd be like the veteran walking backstage, and Mark would walk up, and he was like the new kid, like Jobber Mark, right? And he'd walk up to me, he goes, "Hey, I'd like to meet you." The disco, big fan. He goes, "I go, what's your name?" He's like, "I'm Mike Reinhardt." Like he would go through the day as like Mike Reinhardt, the jobber, like not stuff. You know, so, and it's like promo. He goes, "Hey, I'm thinking to cut this promo out there." It's like, "I'm Mike, and I'm the stuff, and the girls just can't get enough of Mike Reinhardt." Buff was funny. Ryback, I want to get you on here because like I think this is an important conversation. You're one of the guys one of the only guys I think that would have this, and this is a conversation that's never been had in professional wrestling. And we brought this up last week in one of the mailbags and everything. And I said, let's get Ryback on to talk about this because you've been very outspoken about this. Bro, remember what's his name? Andrew Yang. Well, when he was running for office, he was like, the whole thing was like, I'm going to go after Vince. Yeah. We're going to unionize wrestling, right? Mm-hmm. And you're an intelligent guy, and you've been a proponent of like, hey, wrestlers, we should be unionized, right? Like,
by the way, Skip, just so you know, he doesn't say that when you're around. He says, "What a dumbass that fucking." Yeah. Now you're an intelligent guy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Right.
I get it. Yeah.
But you've made some very pointed comment. Like you've been out there, you've been outside the box, and like you've said in the past. I don't know if you feel it now. Like all wrestlers should get paid the same. We're all kind of like basically doing. No. Okay. All right. Well, let me finish. Then we'll go back to like the fallacies of what maybe I've gotten some of your comments wrong, right?
Yeah.
But what I want to start is, and I want to start where you're the pro union guy. You want to start a case. Hey, I want to start the conversation from the what did you want to call it? The not the adversarial thing, but from like the office what's that word you use when you have the opposite perspective? Devil's advocate. I want to be the devil's advocate, okay, and have the conversation from the other side. And the first thing I want to start off with is like, dude, when we want to unionize wrestling, where is the starting point? Who is the union leader? Who is like these are questions that like have to like if you want to like unionize wrestling, like we got to start from a starting point.
Yeah, it would have to start from the promoter.
Okay, so where like in your mind, where do we start? Go ahead, Cody.
I feel very uncomfortable calling you Skip. Yeah, so I'm going to call you Ryback. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So that was just for you guys. You guys did. I wasn't intending for you to call me Skip the whole time. So yeah.
All right. Yeah. But here's the thing. Before you answer that, tell him what was the thing that he got wrong, because he told this is one of the reasons why we had you on, because he goes, yeah, Ryback believes everybody should be paid the same, and I go, are you sure? He goes, yeah, and I go, well, let's have him on the show and find out. So can you correct what that is?
Okay, good.
So that was when I left WWE, and I put out that blog that I wrote on the way home from wherever we were, St. Louis to back to Vegas. But it was asking a question of more equal pay in wrestling in the terms of its physical acting, and knowing in the different roles that are played, and in knowing guys that are left out on certain things and doing the equal amount of work from appearances and travel dates. And it's not for equal pay. I came right out and said there shouldn't be equal pay across the board because there's different roles in acting and merchandise sales figured in. But WWE, the pay scale in WWE was so far off with things, with guys. And so I was just asking a question on that to get people to think. And then for whatever, you know how the people will grab onto one thing and then that was the talking point of the whole thing. And
like, why does a guy make $9 million and one other guy makes $300,000, but they work the same dates?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I experienced that from doing more work, working more dates, and fulfilling more obligations. But again, it comes down to downside, and there's a lot of things factored in, and it was never. And the guys that are playing the more important role should make more money, and it was never. Yeah. Well, so the whole thing just they completely just ran a whole different direction with that, and it is what it is. And I've corrected it many times, but
okay, cool. That's aside. That's not the most important part. But I want to talk about, so if we want to unionize wrestling, okay, who is raising their hand and wanting to be like who sits at the bargaining table? Like I said, where do we start this conversation? Because we could like everybody can virtue signal about this forever. We could talk about wrestling needs union. We could see a catastrophic injury in the ring, and that guy needs to be taken. So where do we start the conversation?
Yeah, wrestlers are their own worst enemy on it, so you can't start with the wrestlers. It would have to be from a promoter, and they would have to want to do it for the betterment of wrestling in general with that moving forward. Because the way the pay scale in wrestling is, and in that inner circle, and there's guys making a lot of money in that inner circle, and in every promotion they have the guys that are making more. Why would anybody that's making a lot of money want to try to disrupt that unless it's coming from the promoter and the organization is trying to actually implement that? And that. I gave up on that along when I saw, and that's with me, and I've got a lot of friends and guys in the business, but with everything that's gone on, like with me in WWE, there's guys and I get messages fully supportive of everything, but they will not rock the boat because that's where they make their money. They got to feed their families, and it's just the way that it is.
You know what's kind of funny, Ryback? This is what's funny. In Mexico, unions are very strong and very popular, right? So they had a wrestlers union, right? Listen to this, and you'll love this. And this is why the boys will always be. Yeah.
There was a wrestlers union in Mexico. Interesting.
Yeah. And for a long time, too. But listen to this. But this is why the boys will always be the boys. So I remember I was in Tijuana, right? And I was in the dressing room, and these veteran wrestlers came out. And they went into the dressing room. They go, guys, for years and years, all these promoters done is, they exploited us, they've used us, they fucked us and all this, but let's band together and let's start a union and let's protect each other.
Yeah.
Fast forward a couple years later, we find out these motherfuckers were stealing money from the wrestlers union, right? And so the fucking wrestlers union broke up. And the other thing is, I wanted to help because I went to the top really quick in Mexico and I got power and I wanted to unionize, but same thing that happened to you. I would talk to other wrestlers. He goes, what's in it for me? I'm making good money. I'm on top. Yeah. So the top guys have to be unselfish.
And that comes in and this is where the system that Vince has set up and promoters in general, and it protects them and it's very difficult. And that's why it's like a new organization or promoter that is willing to. I gave up on it along just with the thing. It's physical acting, and there's going to be.
We should be under SAG. Period.
Yeah,
it should be SAG. Right.
But we're never gonna. We could talk about it all day, but the guys and the way that the system is, and it's just. And I've experienced it, and it's like.
And let me tell you something about the union, Ryback. We should be in a SAG or some type of union, because let's start off with one thing. If you're working at a job, right, and they pay overtime, right, you get paid for overtime, bro. How many days did you work overtime in WWE? Every day. Sometimes you're on call 24 fucking hours. You're working literally from the minute you get up to the minute that you sleep, and the next day it's again and again. You get no fucking pension. You get no workman's comp. Like, we get fucked.
I've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to get my health back from injuries that happened while in WWE and from their negligence and things. And it is what it is. It's unfortunate, man. But what are you going to do? And you speak up on it, and it's people.
You get
I don't
heat.
know.
But that's why I think guys like Andrew Yang kind of gave up.
I
The
unfollowed
whole
him.
thing is like,
Yeah.
because like the whole thing is like, dude, it's like you want to, it's like if you want to unionize this business, it's like for what you like, okay, like what would you want, like from a union member standpoint? It's like maybe kind of all right. They're telling me to do something, I don't want to do it. I think it's going to risk my health and stuff. And now they know. Now I could speak, I could speak up or go to my union representative and say, like, like if say the climate like exists, and everything. But then it's like, okay, if that's where we're going, like unions, like you don't like your creative, you don't like being told, you think you're being devalued doing this, you think that you're putting yourself at health risk doing this, everything. So then you'd have to sit down at the bargaining table and figure out, okay, what under the whole prism of creative is like out of bounds for like a wrestler to do or be asked to do. It's like,
Yeah.
and I think the thing is like when we talk about it, in big terms, well, we need to unionize. Like when you think about it, like who on earth is going to sit down at a table and have this conversation and go over all the prism of creative everything and what we can and can't do and what we and
Yeah.
it's like you kind of like sit there at the end of the day. It's like, dude, we're getting paid a lot of money and we have a lot of freedom to do what we want in that ring.
Yeah.
Like we're not being forced to do a reverse Frankensteiner off the top rope to a guy that could risk a neck.
No.
It's like we're
Yeah,
agreeing
but
to do that.
Glenn,
You know what I'm saying?
this to me is much more than that. Because football players get a pension, basketball players get a pension. Why can't we get a pension? And we work the whole fucking year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's a big deal to me.
Well,
Go
I
ahead,
think
Ryback.
too, a big problem, and this is something that I can only now speak for myself moving forward. And I think you have to be very savvy on on the contracts unfortunately, now there's options on places to go and whatnot. But it is physical acting. I think you need, for me personally, I want to know the role that I'm playing when I go there. A lot of, in general, wrestling contracts, you sign the contract, you get your downside, right? And there's maybe some little small things in there that you might be able to get added in here and there. And then you go sit in the bleachers and you let a bunch of people figure out, and all the politics come into play. And your role could range from the top of the card to the bottom of the card in the course of a 3 or 5 year span, in which that will influence your money heavily. I think pro wrestling contracts in general it's up to the talent. And I've learned this, I learned it the hard way. And you got to be very specific on what you want. And you just need to communicate. And that's very difficult now for an organization too. On the other hand, that's going to take you maybe have to have another department on that, on contracts and things, and for the talent roles. But that whole just sign a contract to go sit in the bleachers and let other people figure it out is a very dangerous thing on that. And it's something that needs to be more specific, but it's up to the talent for that as well. But as far as like the other things too, Glenn, like, WWE Access, WrestleMania, wrestlers are the only people not making money for the whole thing, doing signings, doing 10, 15, 12, 15 signings for the week, all for free. Great, you get to meet a bunch of people. The fans are paying, the WWE is making money, they're selling merchandise, and they're selling concessions and everything else, and you get nothing. But that comes to, I speak up on all this when I did prior. That's up now, and I realize, I go, man, fuck everyone. No one's going to, it's a wash my hands of it. I know now, and you have to negotiate that, and you have to communicate that. And communication is the key individually. The problem is, oftentimes WWE, when you communicate on things that you want with that, they were such a power position before that unless you are in a good position, then that's very, very difficult for the majority of guys. And they'll just, if you're coming up from developmental and getting your start, they'll just get rid of you and they'll plug somebody else in, and they have nothing to lose on it. So.
Well, let's talk about something else that you've been very outspoken on.
Yeah.
And I'm going to come from the devil's advocate perspective on this too, because I got it. Because it's funny, because I've been boys and office, and when you become office, it's like it's not overly different perspective, but you do get a different perspective. It's like, okay, we're telling these guys what to do, and if they don't want to do it, do we punish them? So it's like it's a different perspective. But I'm still for the boys, right?
You got to protect yourself. That's where you make your money, and you're working for the organization now.
Right. But let's talk about this, and this is one of the things that the problem that you've had is, you built like when you build your own brand with your own creative, your own creative input, and you build a brand and you build the Ryback character, and it's you're let go from the company. Okay, and the company is saying, all right, your whole brand you built here, you can't take that going forward.
Yeah.
Right? We own that. Okay? We own something. And because I'm on the fence with this. I'm very much into your perspective. Like, hey, I'm the one that did this. I built, this is nobody else. I built my brand. Why can't I continue to do my brand going forward? But then it's like, the WWE, if you look at it from their perspective, they're saying, it's like, okay, wait a second. We spend a lot of money, millions of dollars on production. We put you on TV and we throw you out there to a vast audience. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Had you not been in this system, you would have never had that ability under our system here to be presented and marketed to the world like you have.
How many matches has the logo had?
No.
So that logo don't make no fucking money without all the wrestlers either.
Right.
It goes both ways.
Right.
But the thing,
that's the thing. I'm provided the devil's advocate.
No, yeah.
I want to hear this argument.
Yeah, but the thing is, before you answer, Ryback, my answer to that would be, why? So if they gave you all this promotion, because I'm in the same situation, AAA. When somebody comes in with a new name, what we do is we don't take it from them. Okay, lend us your name, the time that you're here, and when you're gone, you can fucking take your name. They could have given you your name back, or at least shared, but they didn't do any of the two, right? Am I correct?
Yeah, they have every right now. If they come up with the character and the gimmick and everything, I think they have full right of keeping it if they want.
Yeah,
that's
their IP.
And I have a lot of things. This is why I want the trademark. This is why when I had the facts of the case and they were caught lying to the USPTO, which is why I won my name. Though they lied to me up front. I wanted to trademark this before going, and they strong-armed me, and they lie, and they say, no, we'll take care of everything. They don't ask for permission with it. And I knew all these details, and I had all my legal stuff going on prior with this in private conversations with them that they lied to me on things. So it was a little different situation on that. But I think oftentimes it's up to the talent. If they did create the character, they have to communicate that they want that up front. But WWE, the way they work, they just won't bring in a lot of guys if they want to have full ownership of it. But with it, and I think that the promotion is fully entitled to it if they came up with absolutely zero of the whole thing though of mine on any.
Let me ask you a question. So I didn't know that you went to court with them and you won your name.
Yeah, it was through the USPTO, the United States
How long?
Trademark Office. That started and since. When I left, I had the big guy in Feed Me More, and then just to give you a brief, when I walked out and let my contract expire, and I walked out with that, one of the reasons I legally changed my name on top of that was this, to avoid all this, they sent a form with an NDA for me to sign over all my social media, give them at the time my Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, I don't know if Facebook was on there, the Instagram, all connected on that. With an NDA, and when we said no on that, that's when all my social media problems started. Which then I went and legally changed my name to avoid this, so that legally they should not have been able to whatever trademark, copyright things they sent to the social media companies. They legally should not have been able to do that because I owned everything else, and I'm legally Ryback Reeves, which I just posted. My attorney, we had to send letters to all the social media companies. They're finally unlocking my accounts because I won the trademark through that. But that started in 2018, I believe. The renewal was coming up for my name with that, and I had already filed for it. WWE let it go to the very last day and refiled, which then we had to then start the process of the battle for the USPTO that went on from whatever 2018 just until a month ago when I got awarded the name. They reached out with Vince was still in charge. This is before all the stuff with him. They reached out to settle a year and a half ago with all of this, and we agreed on everything. The social media stuff. The only thing we did not agree on is they felt they should not compensate me for anything, in which I said then we're not settling on that. They reached out again when Hunter and Stephanie got put in position that they wanted to try to amicably repair the relationship with everything. I go, great, the settlement is here. This is everything. Let's go. They delayed it for the thing went all the way to the end. They realized they were going to lose. They did a deposition, everything with their attorney. They then, the final month before it went to decision, rather than losing it publicly, they go, oh no, we're going to let it go with it. And then it was awarded to me. It had to go through an appeal process, which is one of the reasons why I delayed coming on here. There was an appeal process, just so you guys know. I didn't want to say anything to for them to then go or someone to have somebody appeal it and then start this shit all over with everything. So I let it just finish, let it ride out. I got it. Now we're good to go. But
Wow.
it cost hundreds of thousands.
5 years. 5 years.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars on top of what I've spent on getting my health back. But it was the principle. And it's all a game to Vince. And this everything with the social media stuff they've done, I've talked about. And I have no fear. And I'll literally lose everything. I go, but I can control getting my health back, get my health back, and I can get back, and everything's going to be fine.
I'm so happy that you finally got your name back. But let me ask you a question. The last day that you left WWE,
yeah,
did you talk to Vince or talk to Triple H, or did you just leave? Or who was the last conversation you had, and what was that like? Like, I'm leaving because I'm frustrated. No, we want you to stay, or fuck you, leave. What was that like?
It was the last match with Kalisto was at Payback in Chicago. We drove to TV in St. Louis. I had already been thinking of when I was going to get out. My back and shoulder were completely fucked, and they were giving me Toradol and cortisone. The Toradol was multiple times a year, and my shoulder ate away all the shoulder cartilage, but the Toradol was every day. I knew, and I kept expressing, and I tried having conversations with Hunter multiple times, and part of it was my fault, and a lot of it was theirs. But and telling him I was injured and I needed something's really wrong with me. The doctors and all that knew. Nobody gives a fuck is the problem. And I'm not going to be a pussy and take myself off the road. I was reaching out to Hunter to try to get him to look into this to get me off the road. I needed to get MRIs on my back, which I got when I left, and I needed a 5-disc fusion and shoulder replacement with all of that. But, I could have just taken myself and said to Hunter, I need to get off the fucking road. And we had back and forth on this multiple times. It was really, really frustrating. But that was what was going on leading up to all of this. With that and not re-signing the contract and everything with Kalisto and with Vince and with the money. There was a lot that went into all this. The last day in St. Louis, they were going to start embarrassing me on TV, and they were going to start devaluing me pretty quickly with this. And I was already, and I just go, and I'd talked to them enough times. I went in, Mark Carrano was in his talent relations with Ric Flair, actually, and I just walked in, I go, take me off your fucking TV show, I'm going home. I get my bags. Carrano comes running back in, and he goes and I guess he went and talked to Vince. I know he talked to Vince or Hunter, and he goes, "Do you want to go talk to Vince?" Whatever. I go, I never want to fucking talk to him ever again. I got my bags and I left. I went to Hooters. I had some beers and chicken wings, and I flew home the next day.
Let me ask you a question. I'm gonna play sort of like word association here, and I want to like I'm gonna give you like a name or like something, and you tell me whether or not your relationship with them was like, good, bad, neutral, right?
Yeah.
Okay, WWE legal.
While in WWE or after?
Well, let's say after. While.
While there, I know nothing about that. We don't deal with them. Well,
after bad. Right.
After, I don't, not good. The guy, my deposition, the WWE attorney, where I had to go, we had to do a deposition here in Vegas. They had to fly in. He looks like an NWO, like an evil Matt Lauer, to give you a description of the WWE attorney who handled this. Looked like a little fucking pervert, just sitting in there with a weird hairline. I kid you not. I go into the deposition. We're in the suit. My attorney's there. All the people are there that recording the whole deal. I've got my Starbucks coffee. The guy, though, the first time, he tries to mad dog me as I come in and just staring a hole through me. I literally just stop and stare a hole back at it. But the guy had it like...
You're working. He's working.
Yeah, he was trying to scare me to make me nervous. I couldn't have done that deposition any better for the 2 hours. It was all I had to do was just tell the truth the whole time. And this guy had a fucking book this fucking big of all the information. They've been following everything that I've been doing. They had so much fucking stuff ready to go in there. And I had a thing for every single one. After it was done, his entire tone changed. And we had a nice conversation actually after with everything. And I can tell you guys this with that, but that was my only interaction with the legal as far as my attorney going. My attorney dealt with them on a lot of occasions.
How's your relationship with Hunter?
Man, I want to like Hunter a lot, and I think early on it was very good. And he was the one that actually came up like doing the double stack for the shell shock, and it was and he used to come up. We used to have little conversations, and I don't know what changed on any of that, but I could tell you, and it's all a game with how things work. And I can understand from Hunter's perspective. And again, I think we have a lot in common and everything's good. And I loved him growing up. And why it really bothers me, he, when I was in developmental, when they were going to try to stick me back in developmental after Skip Sheffield and let me rot down there after the ankle injury, after they fired me, and I had to get attorneys, and this is where all the legal stuff started. Mm-hmm. I had a pretty intense phone call with Hunter while I was in FCW, Florida Championship Wrestling, where I just essentially told him I'm moving back to Vegas, I'm leaving, and they're going to put me on the road. And because I knew I had them with everything going on, that they tried to fire me when I was still not cleared, that they legally couldn't do that. So I understand, and I'm a guy, I was only in Nexus for a brief period. I hadn't done anything in the business, right? So a developmental guy kind of telling him what I'm going to do probably never really sat well for a long time. But everything was smooth when I got back up there. We had meetings in Stanford. He helped me a lot early on, and then he used to come up and just laugh, just little jokes here and there, and brilliant mind with everything. But towards the end, we had some heated conversations with things, and where I'd go through him before I'd go to Vince, and you know, it was pretty intense on my end, and where I told him, I told him flat out, I just go, you're the biggest disappointment in my wrestling career. I go, I grew up loving you, man. I had posters of you in my fucking room. I started working out because of you, and I go, you're just a fucking disappointment. He put his head down. He says, please don't say that. But that's how I felt. But I always felt that I communicated better, and it's all the bullshit in the games and things. And I never ever tried to ever disrespect him or anything. I have a lot of respect for him and his career and everything. But my issues came from the legal stuff and the lies that they told me, and then fucked me over multiple times. How's your
relationship with Vince?
We talked quite a bit. It was pretty good. I'll tell you, the one thing that bothers me, and is from the system there and with them, is I was always told never to talk about all the ankle stuff and the legal stuff with him. With that, and so me and him never talked about anything of where a lot of the friction was coming from underneath him. I tried.
So he probably wasn't aware, you think?
No, he was aware. I think he was aware enough, but there's a lot he couldn't have been aware of. But we did talk, and I had conversations with him. I go, there's shit that goes on, and again, this guy, he's running a multi-billion-dollar business. Nothing but respect and having a business.
$9 billion company.
Yeah, right. So it's not like I'm telling him how to run his business, but you guys know how things can kind of go from the trickle down thing in the tone that is set and the people that they have working there and the bullshit. And I knew with the different people, like Carano, the biggest piece of shit in the world. The guy's gone, right? Everybody, I don't think you're gonna ever have a person on here that's gonna speak highly of that guy. Had a lot of issues with that guy with things, and I tried to kind of just talk to Vince about that and like the bullshit that was going on, so that we could get into what was really going on, but it never got there on that.
What did you think of Disco's mentor,
Terry Taylor?
Johnny Ace?
Oh, Johnny Ace.
I like Johnny, man. Johnny was always straightforward with me, and Johnny was really good. Johnny rehired me. Johnny hired me from Tough Enough. He rehired me when I got released in developmental. He was always a big supporter of mine, I feel, with everything. And after, I can tell you, I had a heated conversation with Johnny when they fired me. He called to fire me after Nexus, my ankle injury, and I told him I was in Gold's Gym in St. Pete. Tatanka would work out there sometimes, and he called to fire me, and I cut the promo because of everything going on. And I just told him, I go, you're not firing me. I go, in 1 year I'm going to be the biggest star on the roster, which arguably was 1 year from the time that conversation, at least in that conversation. With that, and we always had a great respect for each other, because I think I never held it against him calling to fire me, and I think he respected that I stood up for myself with everything, and because if I didn't, I would have been fired with all of it, and I never would have existed.
What was your relationship with the doctors? Bro, they're giving you Toradol all the time. I'm thinking there was a great relationship. That seems kind of
that's very strong.
Yeah.
I say great from the standpoint of we laughed and joked around and hung, and they're not bad guys. It's like having an office position that you just talked about. Your obligation is to serve the organization with that, and when you're
like the NFL guys giving guys Toradol.
I gave them, but you guys know how it is in things when you're up there. They're not. One day turns into a week, turns into a month, turns into years of doing stuff, and like. there's no off season, there's no rest period. You don't take yourself off the road because you're making more money when you're working every day, and you just go one more week, and you keep going. But like, you don't realize the damage. And again, it is their obligation. That's where something like a union would come and things would be beneficial for wrestlers, because wrestlers can be their own worst enemies in this stuff. And
for sure.
I got a question for you.
I'm not like Punk. I don't hold anything against. I take the blame for me not looking into my injuries on my own time, but you don't want to, right?
Well,
Wrestlers don't want to get X-rays or MRIs.
Ryback, wait one second, Disco. So you mentioned Punk. I got a question.
Yeah.
So if you remember years ago, you got like this reputation or stigma, and I think it was because of Punk that you were either clumsy or unsafe or something like that.
It was from the
in hindsight
podcast, Konnan. Yeah.
Okay. In hindsight, was there some truth to that, or was you offline, or you guys didn't get along, or what was the deal there?
We got along great. I thought prior to that, I could tell you that him and Cena were the two merch sellers when I came up and I got hot. And I'll never forget, he came over to me when the merch guys were showing me the numbers, and Punk became aware of it, and he goes, "Holy shit!" And he was, and from that point forward, I felt like everything kind of changed with everything. It's unfortunate that Colt Cabana actually apologized to me for all of that, and I think you guys, there's a lot more. You would hear a lot more things. I worked with top guys from my whole time. Even no matter where I was out in the card, like live events, I was with top guys from the beginning to end. Which all this stuff would have came out while I was there.
You were super hot. You were really hot.
There was one time that you were on fire, and I think you were wrestling. I don't remember. Was it maybe Cena?
And then the Punk stuff came about.
Maybe, yeah.
You literally got derailed by the Punk narrative.
But
Go ahead. Yeah.
I will say this, but I think that when you're in that environment, it brings out the worst in everybody. And again, you got guys, you know how money is with everything, and you're in those. And I understand it that you're in the top positions. You want to protect your money. Nobody's going to go out of their way to make it easier for me, right? With that, so it's just the way that it is in that environment. And me and Cena came up to me towards the end, while I was still there, and we were in Saudi Arabia, and Cena came up, and we weren't allowed to leave the hotel. We're in the hotel gym, and it was just me and him in there. He just goes, "I have nothing but respect for you, that you've never let anything bother you. You stay positive. You've overcame everything, all the shit." And it meant a lot to me. Like, even though he was being sincere with that, we had issues early on, and not like working or anything out there. I loved working with him, and but I think that environment, you're gonna, if I was in that spot, would I want to willingly give up all this money to let another guy? I think I have a little better attitude. I'm like coming from an athletic background, like Daniel Bryan, I think has it too. But I do think you have to have a level of ego and protection to keep your spot for that amount of time. And it's the way that it is. It's physical acting. And so, I could have, and just to go back to Punk, and this is, because I reflect on this all the time, that when the day the undefeated streak with Punk at Hell in a Cell, when everything was red hot, and I remember they told me the finish that day, and my heart kind of fell into my stomach because it just didn't feel right. I go, fuck, this is kind of like, but I was simply
What was the finish supposed to be?
It was Punk over with Brad Maddox with the low blow, and then they covered me. And then, but I shell shocked him on the top of the cage after we closed the pay-per-view on top, and we continued things with that. I could have went into Vince's office, and I talked to Vince that day. We had a long conversation, and I was always professional. I signed the contract. That's what they want. I was plugged in for Cena, who got injured, to get Punk over to go on to face The Rock. Unfortunately, I was just red hot, and a lot of people thought maybe that it was going to be for me. It was actually playing a supporting role for Punk with all of that, and multiple times. And then, unfortunately, when it came back to Cena, when they turned me heel, I think people thought that was going to be the time. And again, it was playing a supporting role to get Cena over, and things went the way that they went with all of that. But I could have went to Vince's office and said, look, I don't think this is right, and this is why. But they had that match set up, and with Punk and Rock for Rock and Cena at WrestleMania. That was the Roman Reigns push going on at the time with everything. I just happened to get red hot, and it they didn't protect it the way that they should have, but it wasn't for me, and it's just what it was.
I want to get into this.
Yeah.
You how old are you?
41 now.
Okay, you're 41. You look great right now. I follow you on you're very much into fitness, your products and stuff, everything, and you're a vegan. Are you? Let me ask you a question.
No, I'm back to eating. I'm back to eating meat and chicken.
Cool. All right, cool. But you look great. But you are doing the fasting, the intermittent fasting. And what I noticed you said you did 3 24-hour fasts, which is basically the 1 meal a day diet, which Herschel Walker used for years. Like Herschel Walker was a 1 meal a day guy. Do you see how fit he was? He was absolutely all day and stuff. So you're in good shape right now. And people are sitting there wondering, you're ready to come back, and people are going well, Ryback, so dude, you've been doing the stem cell research, the stem cell stuff, and all I got to point to is Rey Mysterio. Yeah. He is going strong right now, coming off a lot of stem cell. Explain how the stem cell research is rejuvenated your body, with all the fitness, how your body's feeling.
They gave me my life back, BioAccelerator, and then my doctor here, and the people. Because when I left, I needed a 5-disc fusion. And that was from my ankle injury, just so people understand.
What was wrong with you, and how'd you rehabilitate yourself?
When I broke my ankle, when I was in Nexus in the match with that, and I kept wrestling, I got new boots from Stagecoach for Nexus. We were starting making money, so we all bought new boots. My boots got made too narrow, but we were getting ready to go on a Hawaiian Japanese tour with everything, so I didn't bring any other boots, and I didn't know until I started wearing. I tried them on at home, but I didn't know until you get in the ring, and the ring is softer than the floor. My foot was wobbling. Got drop kicked. Me and Otunga versus Tyson Kidd and Harry Smith on the comeback. We get the hot tag. I go to take a drop kick. Malenko was the producer. I'm not supposed to bump. They wanted me to get drop kicked twice from Kidd and not go down. Well, my ankle rolled when he drop kicked me. And the impact caused my ankle to rip, and it broke in 3 places. I popped up, and I did the entire comeback. You know how Connor's foot fucking broke? Right. My foot. I wrestled the whole match with my fucking running on my thing, with my ankle fucking flopping, and my fucking leg spiral broke all the way to my knee, my fibula, I believe. So we did that. They send me back. I get fixed from that. That doctor botched the surgery and put 2 screws through my perineal and superficial nerve. That's where all the nerve damage came in. That nerve damage that happened, which we didn't follow up on, and my big toe to this day doesn't work on my left foot, doesn't go up all the way. Really? I used to drop foot. I got that back, thank God, with that. But that perineal nerve runs into your back, and that's what caused my disc in my back to start rapidly degenerating. So when I came back as Ryback, my back problems actually started pretty quickly with that, and I didn't know why. I just thought it was just from working 5 days a week. With that, my discs were degenerating. So by the time when I left and finally got MRIs, 2 different doctors, I needed a 5-disc fusion. My entire right leg turned to jelly and started atrophying. I'll never forget the first time I got in the shower and my leg. I couldn't feel my leg. I go, oh my God! And that's when I looked into the stem cells, and because I couldn't get the fusion, it gave me my life back. I've had 19 of them between my back and shoulder. They regrew all 5 discs to 100%. I have 0 back issues, as if nothing ever happened with it. And then the shoulder, it took a lot of rehab and scar tissue with that. It is.
So the back issues causing problems in your legs, right?
The leg issue was the nerve that runs into the perineal nerve runs from the leg to the back.
I've got a similar issue because my muscles in my legs don't fire at 100%. My calf muscles are kind of they only fire 85%. When I'm stretching, I can't feel that stretch in my calves. I can't feel the stretch in my hamstrings. But I am stretching, But I've got I'm just weaker. But it hasn't inhibited my workouts. I still do. I just do lesser weight than I did. But it's no inhibition and stuff, everything and all that. And I'm just wondering, am I the type of candidate that's probably should look into stem cell research for that?
Yeah, I would. Well, it's because you're back and all the nerve damage and that's from all the bumps and all the years of working and that nerve. That's what I was saying too. With wrestling, a lot of the injuries that accumulate while you're there, they start showing up as time goes on as well with that, and become very problematic for wrestlers and things. That's where I wish an organization would have, with the stuff with Superstar Billy Graham and people having to do GoFundMe's. It's it sucks that the wrestling business doesn't have have a healthcare fund for former performers or things to, because a lot of insurance don't cover pre-existing injuries sometimes, and there can be issues with all of that. But you would, I would say, probably be a perfect candidate to look in, but you would have to know the root cause of, like, is it a disc issue? Where exactly is that nerve issue, stemming from?
It's just in my back, because I'd herniated disc in L5 for years. And just I never got. You never fully, when you have a hernia disc issues, you never fully recover. You have to constantly. You've always had to, like, stretch and, like if you let yourself go and don't work out, like, your back issues they'll come right back. So go ahead.
I'll tell you what you should do, and this is with people I've worked with that helped me, and what maybe some of the dancers do, a lot of the girls at the gym, but the weighted hip thrust for our glutes. Right. Having strong glutes is weak glutes are the number one cause of a weak back typically.
Really?
And that was early on while I was still working when the stem cells, I was doing the indies there when everything launched and Feed Me More Nutrition. I had a whole routine I'd go through before I'd go wrestle with that, but doing the weighted hip thrust multiple times a week kept my back strong enough to get through that with everything going on. It for a lot of people, it can take away all their issues. If there's other things going on, it's never going to fully fix it, but you can live a much more comfortable life. Even just doing it once, twice a week, 4 or 5 sets. You don't got to go heavy, 12, 15 reps will make all the difference in the world with that. And that was from working with a top physiotherapist.
Let me ask you this. So you look great. Okay, like I see, you got abs for days and everything. Let me hear, because you're off the vegan diet, but I'm sure you're healthy. Let me hear a day of your clean eating, and let me hear a cheat day. What do you eat?
So it's pretty simple, 4 meals with things. I wake up, I do 50 grams of protein of egg whites, 2 whole eggs, spinach, mushrooms, onions, jalapeno pepper, all cut in, all fresh. With that, I'll do a serving of hemp hearts. I'll put on top of that with that, and a little bit of lean turkey, ground turkey with that. Uh-huh. Because I do typically between 75 to 100 grams of protein 4 times a day. My afternoon is I do the Feed Me More Nutrition, my ISO Hungry plant protein shake. So that's vegan. I do with that with a tablespoon of peanut butter. With that, I'll do like a snack. Usually a snack before that will be a little bit of beets and celery, and just like a little bit of a fruit, like a fig, blueberries. And I'm talking just a few pieces, not, right. I keep my carbs under control most of the time on this. Third meal will be steak, lean steak, sirloin, something like that, with either potatoes or a little bit of rice. And
white potatoes or sweet potatoes?
Just regular golden potatoes with that. Yeah, nothing. But it's just that a little bit of carbs, and I have a food scale. I weigh everything out. I'm very meticulous with this now. And then a little bit of green beans and broccoli, a little bit of vegetables in there. And then meal number 4, I'll do like a 1 serving of pistachios. With that, I'll do on some nights 2 to 3 servings of air pop popcorn with 1 to 2 servings of plant butter on that. And then I'll do 2 to 3 chicken breasts, depending on the size of the chicken breast on that, to get the protein content. And that's it.
That's a lot of meal, dude. Are you fasting? Are you doing intermittent fasting on those days too?
No, that's morning. I wake up.
You just do the fast on the daily fast, right? Just like 24 hours.
I wake up, just to sleep. I wake up between 4:15, 5:30 every morning, no alarm, and I just go and I feed the dogs, and I do my first meal. Then I do my shake in the afternoon after I do my podcast, do my workout, then do my post-workout meal, and then the last meal, shortly before bed at the end of the night. And then I do a 24-hour after my cheat day every Friday. I do a cheat meal for the feeding time for the YouTube.
Let's hear a cheat day. What's a Ryback cheat?
It's the same. I just do higher carbs. So I do a little bit of Dave's Killer Bread with my eggs in the morning. Same thing with that. And so I'm getting about 60 to 75 grams of carbs with that meal. The lunch is the cheat meal that I'll do. And I don't do anything crazy now. I don't do like 10,000 calories. I just do to go get a burger or 2 and some fries wherever, right. A pizza.
Where's your fast food burger place? Where do you go?
Every week I do something different. So I just follow I just do whatever the food people are doing on YouTube. But all these fast food places come out with new fucking gimmicks all the time for their food. And those videos typically do a little better, or they're supposed to anyways, for YouTube.
Are you still doing those videos? Are you still doing those videos where you, eat and fucking... Remember those videos that you were doing? I don't know if you're still doing
the spicy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just did one a couple weeks ago. I actually got my own hot sauce coming out. One of the League of
But
Fire.
not just the spicy one. I remember you going to like a Burger King and ordering this and ordering that and comparing them. I think maybe the plant burger and the real burger. I'm talking a couple of years ago. You don't do that no more?
No, I will if it's something. I do the videos, same format of the videos, but usually
Yeah.
it's more like doing just whatever the new thing is, like Little Caesars coming out with a pretzel crust pizza. Oh,
Right.
that's what everybody's doing. So that stuff typically is supposed to get a lot more views. It does for everybody else on there. It used
Right.
to for me until everything happened, but then it still does better than just doing whatever. But that's all tied in the videos, and the whole point of that is the people that watch those videos typically they like to eat food. They're typically probably they're not their ideal body weight. People buy supplements. Right. It ties directly into the supplements with that. We have our marketing and retargeting with all of that. That was the idea behind all of that with doing that, to add that. And it was a layup with Feed Me More. Why the fuck not do it? So with that, but that's all that is. I'll do that for the rest of my life because it's all tied into the marketing with all of that.
Now, let me ask you, where can people order your products? Where can people follow you? Where can people keep up with you?
Yeah, and everything Feed Me More Nutrition on feedmemore.com and Amazon as well, and they're loading the rest of the supplements. We got, I think, 6 or 7 on there with the reseller now, and then everything social media, Ryback on Twitter, the big guy Ryback 22 on TikTok and Instagram, which we're finally starting to get seen a little bit now, and Instagram is finally showing my stuff a little better, and Twitter just unlocked my account where I'm starting to get some views on there again. So those are the main
basically,
places. Where do you? TV.
So where's your biggest piece of your making a living coming from? Your nutritional products or something else?
No, the supplements with that, or the bread and butter with that, and with all of it. But then the social media, obviously, everything ties in from you got podcast and revenue of the YouTube revenue with all of that, and the social media, TikTok, which TikTok used to be this was a huge, and this is one of my what I talk about with they essentially they cut me off from all my revenue for the last 2 years on all my extra revenue with this.
Why?
They suppressed my channel, all my content with that.
Oh,
but this is stuff going on. This is what I try to get people to understand. This is all a game for WWE and for Vince with everything. They're fully aware of everything going on with that. They want to make an example out of me with what I did. I walked out, I won everything, and I spoke my mind. They want to fucking destroy me on that. And billionaires don't act like everybody else. They do it in evil fucking ways, in grimy fucking ways with that. So what do you think is going to happen? Well, they know I'm spending all this money on my health, spending all this money on the legal end of things with that. They're going to try to cut me off because what it does is it's just like it did when they had me early on with my lawsuit, which I dropped for them early on when I was in the main event. That was a multi-million-dollar malpractice suit. It takes you away from a position of power if they think they could drain you with everything if I could never wrestle again, right? That's what Vince loves for guys. Eat shit. You're going to learn to eat shit and love it. This is all a game with him. But what he doesn't know is, no, I will never eat your shit ever again. I'm fucking done. I'll go fucking broke. I'll ride this. I've got so many layers of protection on this that I knew well in advance. I have fucking so many things left still. But I go, just get my health back and everything will be fine. Now everything's coming back on the social media end and we're going to be good. So
plus, didn't I read somewhere that maybe you used to deal in real estate or something like that?
No, I did. I had a townhouse for a bit with that. That was on Airbnb, but I had to rent that out because Airbnb got shut down in North Vegas, Aliante area that I'm in Vegas with that. And so I had to lease that out, rent it out to a girl for a while.
Well, Ryback, once again, thank you for coming on the show. We consider you a friend of the show, okay? And let's chop it up in a couple more months. Is that cool?
Yeah, I think it's important because with people, and I don't like the wrestling media. They're fucking shit, all of them. All those fucking brain dead motherfuckers. And it's important. It always baffles me that fans and people will listen to people that have never done it or experienced it over the people that have actually done it. It blows my mind that this is the day and age that we live in. And I've told people, like, I'm going to continue to speak my mind. I'm going to be me. And I look forward. I'd rather come talk to people that I grew up watching and respect with things than go talk to some fucking goofs that don't have any
Right.
clean. They're just looking for clickbait fucking headlines.
I forget who it was that said it was the best quote I've ever heard. Is like, you know, like 25, 30 years ago, we grew up wanting to be Hulk Hogan. Like this generation of fans grows up, they want to be the next Dave Meltzer.
Yeah, it's just
it's just a weird, like, you know, flex. Like, you know, so right.
And I will say though too, like for talents, and I try to, I don't, I'm very careful when I do my show and how I talk, because I want to go back and it's like the FTR, Dax Harwood, had to stop his show and get a little bit of heat with guys if you speak your opinion. You have to be. I understand though from the talent and like with, I always think though when we're in the business and around it, we will speak a little differently when we know the people than when we're away from the business. And like everyone, like you guys are done with everything, right? But still involved with the business, talk about it all the time. But I do think it's important though. I caught myself early on years ago doing it. I go, how would I feel if people, you know, were saying things about me that didn't know what was going on or whatever. And I try for me to just be, when I talk about things, the talent, like to be as respectful as possible, because I'm not there right now. I'm not doing it. And then, you know how the system is with things and with guys and they having to toe the company line. It's a difficult thing, but I do think that with fans and people, I don't understand the not respecting the guys that did it before and that are offering genuine good advice a lot of times on that can help and whatnot. So I would rather talk to you guys and than ever go do fucking wrestling media after a fucking show with a bunch of fucking dorks that are just looking like right. I go, what the fuck is going on with all of this? But it's the day and age that we live in.
Yeah.
100%.
I enjoy
All right.
the show.
Well,
I appreciate you guys a lot.
all right. Well, thank you very much, Ryback. We will have you on in the future. And thank you once again for being on, keeping it 100. Boom.
Likewise. Thank
All
you
right,
guys.
peace, Ryan.
Be cool, my
Thank you,
friend.
brother.
Take care.
Peace.
Let me make one quick call.